Alright, what's up everybody? It's your boy King and welcome to today's vlog. Here to recap week 3 of the 2014 college football season. I'm going to start off with my game of the week. A spectacular game between number 6 UGA Georgia against number 24 South Carolina at Columbus. It was a great game, especially for the Gamecocks. The defense stepped up, especially when they needed them, especially with that goal line situation where they had to deal with first and goal, and they actually held Georgia. That was a spectacular performance. They had to respect Georgia's offense, particularly from the running back Todd Gurley. He still had his yardage. Like I said, he was going to get his yards no matter what. 131 yards rushing on 20 carries. And he did have a touchdown, but the South Carolina Gamecock defense held him just enough and slowed him down just enough to pull off the 38-35 victory. Now, that was my pick for the upset game of the week, and I did pick correctly, but the real upset game of the week was between number 9 USC against Boston College, in which the Golden Eagles won by 6 points. That was a major upset, and I was very shocked. I didn't even talk about this particular matchup. I thought this was going to be an easy win for the Trojans. That's why I did not mention it as a key matchup last week, but I was proven wrong, and I was a little bit shocked, especially with a fine performance in the previous week against the Stanford Cardinals, and now they're bumped back out of the top 10. Other games I talked about last week, BYU played against Houston. They pulled off a good 23 victory over the Houston Cougars. Quarterback John Okoro for Houston had a good game, over 300 yards, 3 touchdown passes, and Taysom Hill did his thing, running the football, leading the team with 162 yards rushing in that particular matchup. Another upset that occurred this past weekend, and this was an upset that I did call. East Carolina edged out Virginia Tech 28-21. Now, East Carolina started off with 21 unanswered points, but headed into halftime, it was 21-0. And then the second half, the Hokies ended up fighting back and tying the game 21-21 with a minute and 20 left. That gave just enough time for quarterback Shane Carter, who passed for over 400 yards and 3 touchdown passes, to drive the ball down the field and actually run the winning touchdown. He had 13 rushing yards and a touchdown. He had a great performance at Blacksburg, and I told you guys you need to look out for him for the 2016 NFL Draft. Another loss that I had this past week, number 21 Louisville lost to Virginia 23-21, and it was a good defensive effort, and this was actually the first top 25 win for the Cavaliers since 2011. Minnesota, this was another game I got wrong. They lost to TCU 30-7 due to the great effort on the defensive side and actually slowing down David Cobb, their star running back, to just 41 yards rushing in that game, forcing quarterback Mitch Leidner to put the ball more in his hands and everything resting on his shoulders, which means that was a little bit too much pressure on him, and in that game he had 3 interceptions against that TCU defense. Washington actually hosted Illinois, 2 undefeated teams. Washington ended up winning 44-17. And this was another great game, and actually the game that led to triple overtime. Florida edged out Kentucky 36-30. Great game on both ends, and I'm actually looking at Jeff Driscoll. He had 295 yards passing in this one and a couple of scores. OU actually edged out Tennessee 34-10. That was a good victory. My Texas Longhorns actually had a pretty good game against UCLA defensively, but that's also due to the fact that Brent Hundley, this is an injury report for you guys, Brent Hundley, the star quarterback for UCLA, actually injured his non-throwing elbow, and he actually injured that in the first quarter, and he was actually gone for the game, which means Jerry Neuheisel, the last name sounds very familiar, he's the son of Rick Neuheisel. He had to step it up, and he actually pulled off a good victory 20-17 against my Longhorns, and this is actually a bad thing for Brett Hundley. His draft status has been actually dropping, in my opinion. Started off the season rocky for the first 2 victories, but then in this one he injured his non-throwing arm. That is a major concern for me. He's actually my number 3 quarterback thus far for the 2015 NFL Draft, and it looks like because of this, everything's starting to go downhill a little bit. I think he's actually going to bump possibly out of my top 5 quarterbacks for 2015. Penn State and Rutgers, woo! That was a great defensive showdown between these 2 teams, in which the Nittany Lions won 13-10. And last but not least, Nevada actually played at Arizona, in which Arizona won 35-28. So overall, this past week, I went 8-3. Overall, so far this season, 28-8. That's a respectable record, trying to get things improved for next week, for this upcoming week of college football, and still very exciting, and I really think looking forward to see happens in week 4 because we're starting to see a little bit more conference play, and I'm going to give you a lot more key matchups for this week. And I'll see you guys on Thursday to start talking about week 4 of the 2014 college football season. Thank you for watching today's blog from the Football Source. I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.